For the past several years, Charles County government has produced a series each December called The Gift of Information, providing our listeners and viewers with a deeper look into a relevant topic that impacts our community. This December, we are sharing The Gift of Information, Environmental Care and Climate Resiliency, a 3-episode series that I, Doria Fleischer, your Community Engagement Coordinator, am honored to be hosting. Building a resilient community is a high priority for Charles County government, and we want our residents to have as much information as possible so that we can all work together to prepare for, respond to, and recover from current and future climate issues. We hope you'll accept this gift of information about environmental care and climate resiliency from Charles County government and pass it along to your loved ones and neighbors. Hello, Charles County. Thanks for tuning in to The Gift of Information, our December 2024 series on environmental care and climate resiliency. Joining us here today to talk about climate resiliency is Stacy Schaefer, the Executive Director of our Resilience Authority of Charles County, and Jewel Lester. And Jewel, I'm going to look down so I make sure I get your title correct, the Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps member who is partnering with the Resilience Authority. Yes. I have to say, you guys have given me quite the challenge. The long titles are really like, you're making me earn my paycheck this week. So thanks a lot, ladies. I appreciate it. But thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. So Stacy, I want to start with you just giving us an explanation of who you are and what you do and really what the Resilience Authority is. This is an organization that's really pretty unique to Charles County, yes?
It's very unique. It's very
Beautiful.
unique across the state of Maryland, in fact.
So tell us about the Resilience Authority and your role in it, please.
Okay, so the Resilience Authority was formed by the Charles County Commissioners in 2021, and that was in response to a Maryland state legislation that was enacted to give localities the ability to create resilience authorities to move more quickly and accelerate the pace of funding to build resilience to the effects of climate change.
All right, I'm going to try to break that down a little bit. So what I think I hear you saying, and the work that I've watched you do, is that we know and we joke both with tears and with laughter that government moves slow and that government has a lot of rules when it comes to funding, yes?
Yes.
So the Resilience Authority model is that it's a nonprofit organization that is able to have more access to funds and move a little quicker while supporting the government. Is that an accurate statement?
Exactly. So we are an independent organization with an independent board. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, but we are also a government instrumentality. And what that means is that we collaborate and work with the government to serve the public purpose of helping communities. So the Resilience Authority, for example, has access and the ability to apply for more quickly all of the federal funding that's been out there from the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure legislation.
We do love our acronyms and our big names, don't we? Yes.
As well as we're also able to partner with the private sector.
Excellent.
So that's something that would be very difficult.
So you have a little
for the
bit more
government to do.
freedom than
than
perhaps just working straight through government.
Exactly. I mean, we do have our own standard operating procedures, and we do have board members, and we're audited and everything else. We have to conform to all of the laws and regulations surrounding nonprofits. But yes, we are able to move more quickly. So it's been really exciting because the effects of climate change that are felt most strongly in Charles County are increasing temperatures, heat islands, that pose great health risks, increasing precipitation, storms, and the severity of storms. That leads to stormwater flooding, also hazardous.
Right.
And then, in general, sea level rise, which, of course, make the rivers that surround us rise as well and erode our coastline.
So those are the 3 things that keep you up at night.
Exactly. Those are 3 things that all of our projects are focused on. But in addition, we focus on, climate change, and whether you call it climate change or not, the effects of climate change. Everything I just mentioned, increasing temperatures, storms, rising sea levels, it doesn't affect everyone the same way. So we focus on the communities that are most vulnerable and not as easily, and can't adapt as easily. So we prioritize equity in everything that we do. Can I give you an example?
Yeah, please. And then I want to get into some of the projects specifically. So this is a great lead-in. Talk to me about the equity piece and how that looks.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so urban heat islands exist where there's inequitable spread landscape cover.
Okay.
Not enough trees, way too much concrete.
Okay.
A perfect example is if you look at the Elite Gymnastics Center in Waldorf on Old Washington Road. That parking lot floods, and it's a heat island. You can actually go on Maryland Department of Environment's mapping and see that the heat severity there is 20 degrees warmer than if you were somewhere that had trees and grass.
Okay.
That both, shade and cool the air. So the Parks Department, the Charles County Parks and Rec Department, approached us and said, there's the parking lot's flooding, and there's this whole side of the parking lot, so it's the south side, that we don't use, and we would love to have some green space for the kids.
Because we've got a great recreation, the
Absolutely.
gymnastics building is great, and the programs are great, so why would we not expand into that outdoor space?
Exactly.
Okay.
Amazing. So the Resilience Authority was able to jump right on that. We applied for funding through the Chesapeake Bay Trust, so those were a lot of EPA funds.
Okay.
And we were awarded funding to have a engineer professionally design tearing up the unused asphalt on that side. And we are now right in the process of applying for the construction where the asphalt will be torn up and we will be putting in a pocket park that really consists of two areas. So an area that's a natural play area for the kids. So not a playground, but a natural, shaded area. And then also a picnic area that families can use.
Beautiful.
And then we're also putting in other nature-based stormwater measures on the side that's still used for parking so that it doesn't flood as much and so that it's more shaded and cool.
And what I appreciate is that it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that this isn't there is too much concrete here, there is a problem, tear everything down. Instead, it's how can we make a space better without leaving behind or losing the great programs that exist out of that building.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Our motto is very much of taking climate challenges, the challenges that are brought on, and turning them into opportunities. So this is, this lack of green space there, it would be good to fix that anyway.
Right.
The fact that everything now is getting worse in terms of temperature and increased rain, that gives us the ability to access funds as climate resilience to really make a change and
make it a little
expand.
Bit faster, right? It sounds like that efficiency is part of the part of the process.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So if we are funded in this grant cycle, the project will start in the summer and be done by the fall.
Beautiful. Something exciting to look forward to. I'm really excited about that, Stacey. Thank you. So as we talk about some of the other initiatives and programs and projects that the Resilience Authority is doing to address climate change and also build climate resiliency, Jewel, tell us a little bit about how you fit into this model of we went from Charles County government to Resilience Authority, and now tell us about the work you do.
So as mentioned, I am a Conservation Climate Corps member with the Chesapeake Bay Trust, and that is an organization and a program that partners 18 to 25-year-olds with environmental organizations, whether that be government, federal government, local government, to better ready them for environmental careers.
Okay.
And so I chose the Resilience Authority because I am a native to Charles County. I grew up here all my life, and my love for the environment started with my mom and my grandmother and grandfather. They're from Sierra Leone, and they took care of the environment because it was taking care of themselves in their community. So a lot of planting, a lot of gardening was their main source. Clean water was important to them because they got it from the river. And when they came here, they still had those values. And even my dad from Southeast DC, though there are two worlds that are, drastically different. My dad always wanted to be near the water. So when we moved to Charles County, he would always take me to the Potomac River. And that was one of my favorite things. It's just as a kid, you would always love to play in the water.
Of course, yeah.
The main thing that stuck out to me is my dad saying, don't play in the water because it was never clean enough. And during his time, it was a lot cleaner. So he could, he wanted to share that experience with me, but unfortunately we couldn't. And so that's what drove me to being in the environmental sector and working with Stacy. So
beautiful. So tell us about how your role, you said you kind of get assigned, and then this is a chance for you to build up your experience. What kind of projects are you working with the Resilience Authority on right now?
So one of the first ones that I worked on was a tree planting at Thomas Stone High School, and we planted 17 trees. And that was an experience for not only me to learn how to plant trees and how to safeguard them and water them and take care of them, but also we had Thomas Stone students come out and plant with us.
Beautiful.
And I feel like that was a really beautiful experience, because I think that being in high school, I never really knew that in the environmental sector, like, there was a space for me. And so I feel like having those students there, knowing that we need them and that they are the new generation that's going to help with climate change and climate adaptability, I think that was really moving for me.
I always find that anytime we can involve youth, there's more power, right? Both in longevity, like they're going to be here the longest, but also in that idea of the earlier you know to be invested in your community, the earlier you know that you have a role and that you can make a difference. So I love hearing that you've engaged. And Jewel, I'm going to put you on the spot. Give us just we all hear plant trees, trees are good. Why? When you say to a high school student, like, we are planting these trees because... What are we doing? What's the purpose of this?
They create cleaner air. They help with stormwater and flooding. There's just so many different things with trees. But for me, why trees are important to me, if that doesn't make sense.
Please.
They help with mental health so much. The greenery and being outside in nature and having just access to nature is so important. And there are studies that show that being outside and being in the sunlight and being in the greenery is what makes people live longer and feel better. And I think everyone deserves access to that, no matter what socioeconomic status you have. And so, that's why I think we should plant trees on top of the other, good
all
things.
The good. Well, and it's such like you just described, all benefits, right? It's on school property, which means that we have students who are there and spending hours of their day there. That's their full-time job, and it's good for the environment. So it's something that kind of has that ripple effect of it's good for the students all the way out to it's good for Charles County environment as a whole. Beautiful. Stacy, what are some of the other projects you want to talk about that you guys are working on that the Resilience Authority is doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, to relate directly to what Jewel just said, involving youth is incredibly important. And we are planting trees, and large trees, not just small trees. Okay. And we've planted at 9 different school sites. Beautiful. So we have 152 trees in the ground. And as it turns out, trees don't just survive on their own, especially when you're in a drought. For the first 2 years, they really need to be watered and maintained. So we, in partnership with the Student Conservation Association, if you haven't heard of them, they sponsor AmeriCorps, they host AmeriCorps and a number of different programs throughout the nation. They host our Resilience Authority Youth Corps. And that gives local high school students the opportunity for paid green jobs, taking care of these trees. But we also build in their career ladder development with natural resource professionals, urban foresters, arborists, parks staff, and any career in the natural resources area.
That's great.
We make sure they have time with them.
So again, a win-win of we're building up resiliency, we're making the environment stronger, but we're also helping youth develop career opportunities and networking, right? Even just that getting to know someone and talking to another professional is such a huge experience for our youth to decide what they want to be when they grow up. So that's awesome.
Yeah, Good. It was exciting this summer. The Maryland Department of Environment secretary and her staff came to visit, and we had all of our full-time summer Resilience Authority Youth Corps there.
Beautiful.
So they were able to ask her questions and meet her, and
it's an amazing opportunity. Yeah, good. What other projects is the Resilience Authority working on right now?
Also related to what Jewel just said, it's funny, she's hitting on all the points of what we're working on. Yes. We are working on the design of a living shoreline at the new, and it's still developing, Pope's Creek Waterfront Park.
Okay.
And that is located where Gilligan's used to be on the Potomac.
A famous tourism site in Charles County for a long time. Yep.
Yes. So the sea level rise projections, that it's coming up the river, show that there will be inundation over the next 100 years. And there'll be not only inundation and eroding what will be the park, but also there's very important wetland habitat there that has some rare and endangered species in it. That, by the way, the park is building a boardwalk over, so it'll be amazing.
This new park is going to be super cool, and I'll make sure we put in the show notes some of the from the recreation division, some of the planning that they've put into this so far, because it is amazing. Good. Okay, I'm sorry, I went sidebar. Keep going.
No. So we are working with a contractor that specializes in this to put in a living shoreline. So it'll actually bring the shoreline out more into the river. And it'll be living. It won't just be hard rocks. It'll actually create more beach for people to access the beach, and also points that people will be able to fish from, kayak from, bird watch, everything. So it'll both protect the habitat, it'll protect the park, and provide more access to nature and time in nature. So,
which is a beautiful win-win.
I'm super excited about that. Yes.
Wonderful. So you guys are doing amazing work, and you're doing fast work, right? Like, this is stuff that, like, we're doing this right now. I know that the topic of climate change, the words like resiliency, can be sometimes create, I would say, confusion or anxiety or polarization among our community, because it is such a hot topic that gets talked about on a national level. What's some of the misinformation that you'd love to correct, or some of the education you'd like to provide, or some of the myths you'd like to bust specific to Charles County? I think, I'm really focused right now on how we can, even when it's national problems, how do we take that Charles County focus and approach? What would you love for our Charles County residents to learn and share that promotes the correct information being out there?
Right. Well, you don't have to call it climate change.
Okay.
We all see what we've all experienced higher temperatures. Everybody's experiencing much higher temperatures. The month of July had record highs for a record number of days. So that's increasing temperatures, and that creates health risks. It creates more air pollution, ozone, and it is particularly dangerous for people that don't have greenery around them and shade. It also costs everyone a lot more money. If you have concrete all around you, your air conditioning costs of trying to keep your house or the elite facility cool are so much higher. So if we can use the power of nature to restore areas and increase their value for the community in all aspects, then that's what we want to do. So between the stormwater flooding that we're all feeling, the increasing heat, we know high tide flooding exists now. So again, it doesn't matter what you call it, and it doesn't have to be political. This is what we're experiencing in Charles County, and the Resilience Authority is here to work with the county government to enact changes that are really taking advantage of opportunities for improvement across a number of spaces. One of the other things, too, is the Resilience Authority is really new. We really just started. I started in January of 2023 and as the first executive director. And so we are small and mighty, but in order for us to have the largest impact, we do work on community spaces. So we work at schools, we work on parks, for example, Pope's Creek Waterfront Park and the Elite Gymnastics Center. And so we're not at the stage where we can help individuals with their if they're having flooding or something on their particular property. We would love to continue to grow so we can fix everyone's problems, but we need to work where we're going to have the biggest impact for the largest number of people. So we are looking at public spaces.
This isn't I know when we think nonprofit, sometimes we picture like direct help to the community, but you guys are not at that place yet where if somebody called and said, my backyard is flooding, the Resilience Authority is not going to be what steps in to support change at that point. We're talking bigger picture public space.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
That's, as the Resilience, I would love, 5 years from now for the Resilience Authority to be much larger and to be able to go in and do stream restoration on folks on different private properties. But again, with our dual mission of enhancing community resilience, we're working on properties that the communities have access to. And then also with the mission of looking to the areas that are most vulnerable. So again, we're trying to make the biggest impact on where increasing temperatures, where flooding is felt most.
That makes sense. Okay. Jewel, myths, misinformation that you hear circulating around that you love. And I feel like because you are younger, and I am allowed to say that because that's the program you work in, right? Because you are younger and you're working directly with youth. What do you wish that you could kind of dispel for our youth community, that you want them to have more clear education and information?
I would say that farming, in the sense of growing your own food, doesn't have to be this huge farm with a ton of acres and you have to work a ton of years to own that land to produce your own food. You can do it in your own backyard. And don't be scared to make that first step. And we have organizations like us where you can learn from, people who are experts to, learn how to plant and learn how to make a difference.
Beautiful. So just taking that kind of first step, yeah?
And may I also
Please,
introduce?
Yeah.
So Jewel's capstone project is amazing. She's working at a community center to build an urban food forest.
Yes.
Beautiful. Tell us more about that, Jewel.
So due to my background of farming and forestry and things like that, I really thought it would be an awesome thing to bring urban agriculture and farming to Charles County. And so we're partnering with New Hope Outreach Services, and we're going to build an urban farm of fresh fruits and vegetables so that people in need can have access to that and also learn how to grow their own food.
Beautiful. And what's your timeline on that? What can we?
I'm hoping around next April is when we start our first planting.
Yeah, when the planting, the appropriate planting time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know much. I always joke that I am not good at keeping things alive if they don't have legs. Like, we have animals at home. I'm really good with animals, but plants, when I bring them home, are like, not her. Please don't send us home with her. So, but even I know you have to wait for a certain time of year to plant things. Even I know that. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, congratulations. It sounds like your capstone project is going to be a spectacular learning experience for you, but also a great benefit to our community. So great. What is the one takeaway? Like, I think we put so much information out there, and this series is called The Gift of Information, because I do think that sometimes I'm always in awe of our Charles County government and our partners, the great amount of knowledge that these subject matter experts have. And I want to get it out and give it as a gift to the residents and community. What's the best gift you can offer that if somebody is listening or watching this and saying, like, I want to make a change, I want to make a difference, I want to be a part of climate resiliency, what would you tell them to do? What would you tell them to share? What's the gift that you're wanting to share with them?
For my part, it would be plant a tree, plant native trees, plant native plants. One of the things with the changing climate is we're losing biodiversity, and from that, a thing called ecosystem services. So in other words, the trees that help filter the air, that absorb the stormwater, that's an ecosystem services, because that's how nature helps us have better lives and helps us adapt. So the more trees you can plant, native trees and pollinator plants, you'll be helping everything, including hopefully lowering your air conditioning costs.
Right, a win-win again, right?
Exactly, yes.
Beautiful. And Stacey, I'm going to steal some of those resources for you so that if somebody's listening and saying, okay, I want to do that, or watching and saying, now tell me how, that we can actually give them what to do. So I'll put those in the show notes.
Okay, great. Yes. Maryland has a program called Tremendous Maryland. And
very clever.
Yes, very clever.
Yes.
So there's a place where they're able to get trees at low cost and also technical assistance in terms of planting them.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Jewel, what's the takeaway you want to gift to people?
I guess I would say that there is space for you in the environmental sector, in the environmental field. If you feel like that you don't have enough experience, there's always experience out there. And yeah, that would be my takeaway.
Yeah, it really, it gets a very touchy-feely but important feel that this is, we're all living here together. We're all going to have to work on it together, and everybody's going to find a place in this together. Yeah? Beautiful. Oh, thank you both so much for being here. We have Stacey Schaefer, who's the executive director of our Resilience Authority of Charles County. Whew, a mouthful. And then Jewel, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna look down again so I do this right. Jewel Lester, our Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps member, who's partnering with the Resilience Authority of Charles County. Thank you both so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you will take some of these gifts that you were given of information about climate resiliency today, use them and share them, pass on the gift this holiday season and beyond. Thank you so much, Charles County. Take care, stay safe, and stay engaged.
Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, search Charles County Government on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to like and subscribe. We're also available on YouTube. Search Charles County Commissioners. And stay connected for all county news, information, and programs by visiting www.charlescountymd.gov/stay connected.